everyone, welcome back to the Film Fund podcast. I'm your host, founder, and executive producer at the Film Fund, Thomas Verity. I'm also an award-winning filmmaker, producer, and film festival judge. I started the Film Fund to give filmmakers an easier, alternative way to get their films funded. Instead of working on a screenplay, crowdfunding campaign, or grant application, filmmakers write one sentence pitching their film for a chance to receive up to $10,000 and other prizes to make it. Our most recent narrative and documentary funding contests are closed. We're hard at work writing feedback for entrants who requested feedback on their pitches, but we will be opening again for entries within the next few weeks, so please stay up to date with us on our website, thefilmfund.co, for the latest information. Also subscribe to our newsletter, social media handles. We'll get to all that in due time, but if you're listening at a later date, contests do happen regularly, so check the website for the most up-to-date info. Today we have Sync, aka Rachel Lindsay, but prefers to go by her nickname, Sink, like the kitchen sink, I was just told off the air. So, Sink, thank you so much for coming. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself, your connection to the Film Fund, where that nickname came from, wherever you want to start?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I should probably start with sync because I think that does raise a lot of questions. It's been my nickname since I was about 2 years old. My sisters officially dubbed me as that, but it came from a song that my grandma used to sing to us as babies that had the words "my sinky sink" in it. And for whatever reason,
Okay.
with me it stuck, and so that's what everyone who is closest to me calls me. And then as I sort of came up in the industry, that just sort of stuck and has become my professional name. So
Mhm.
here I am, the kitchen sink, at
Yeah,
your
I like it.
service.
It's
Yeah,
definitely unique. Great story.
I
I
like
had a
it
similar
too.
thing. My
Yeah,
sister
I
and
mean,
I, we were both Goober growing up by my dad, and
cute.
then for some reason that like didn't stick with me, but now we still call her Goob. Like everyone in the family calls my sister Goob for some reason. Like she's even in my phone as that, and I'll
Oh
talk to
my gosh.
like my hands free in my car. I'll be like, call Goob, and it says it back to me. It's ridiculous. So nicknames are cool.
Yeah,
But that's
they're
awesome,
very
and I like that
cute.
you made it your professional name too. Like that's super
Yeah,
cool and unique.
well, it works out. It feels more like my identity now than Rachel does, even though Rachel's a great name. People
Hmm.
are, you know, they're free to call me that if they'd like, but Sync is sort of the like that's really who I am
Hmm.
at this point.
Gotcha. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So tell us a little bit more about yourself, besides the fact that your name is Sync. Who are you? What kind of films do you make? What are you all about?
Yeah, so I grew up as a dancer first. That was sort of my first love with storytelling, but quickly realized I like any and all forms of that. And so I started acting a lot when I was a kid. I remember seeing movies around 10, 11 that started to pique my interest in making films. And I got into sort of the musical theater scene in high school and college, and went to film school for college, and ended up sort of finding myself falling backwards into the music industry, which I had no intention of entering. But I was in an electronic duo for a while that we started getting some licensing deals. Simultaneously, I started working in the production side of the industry in film and TV, and so it really became this sort of eclectic background in all things film.
Hmm.
And I still very much like to be an actor, so I, in support of that, like to create pieces that I can act in, perform in, but also just storytelling opportunities as well. So the funding that I got from the Film Fund was for my first ever attempt at a short film, and I thought, well, okay, if I get some funding for this, then that will be the reason why I should get more funding for it and the reason why I should make it and just do the dang thing. So I feel as though I've been in the industry for a long time in a really adjacent, on the sidelines sort of a way. And now I'm starting to really find my stride with how I would like to approach it and take ownership of my art and how I exist in this industry as sync, I
That's
guess.
awesome. And for those of you out there who are
Yeah.
not avid, devoted readers of the Film Fund blog, Sync received a $400 gift card to Kit Split for equipment rentals for her winning pitch. Could you tell us a little bit about the pitch if you're comfortable talking about the project?
Yeah, absolutely. So I had the short that I wrote was based on my first love relationship, and that person ended up passing away suddenly in an accident. I guess, I don't know, 4 years ago now. And so obviously that's been a really transformative part of my life, and grief is something that I think about a lot. And so I wrote this short as a sort of fictionalized way to process it. So it's not really anywhere close to the actual relationship or person, but it still sort of pays homage to that. And so what I had submitted was that these two exes are sort of revisiting a tradition of sitting on a porch roof together, and some unexpected things happen along the way. And it was a really great exercise in log lining, I will
Mm,
say, to to get that distilled down into something so succinct and concise and
mm.
clear
Yeah,
too.
that's a big part of the contest, really. And it's like one of our big selling points is, oh,
Yeah.
it's so much easier than a screenwriting contest. It's so much easier than a grant proposal. It takes so much less time, which is true, but it's also pretty damn hard to get like something compelling into one sentence, and say how we'd use some of the funding for it. So,
Oh yeah.
hats off to you. And yeah, it's definitely a great exercise too, narrowing your log line. Our first winner, Tim Viola, that was the first thing he said. He was like,
Definitely.
well, it really helped us sharpen our log line because before, like, I didn't even really know what my story was about. He said, I may be paraphrasing. I'm sure he knew what his story was about, but
Mhm.
I know he did say, sharpening the log line was definitely something that came out of entering the film fund. So glad to hear that you feel that way as well.
Yeah.
Um, Anything else you like about the film fund
Yeah,
that
it's
you
sort
want
of
to talk about?
the tip of the iceberg, and it's what has to draw people in.
I think we're
Okay.
back. We are remote podcasting. If anyone's
Okay.
listening on this audio, we are not in the same place, but I think we're back now.
Yes.
All I heard was tip of the iceberg. That was the last thing.
Oh, yes. So log lines, I think, are the tip of the iceberg, and they are what really draw people in to what you're making. And so it really is kind of the first hurdle to get someone to watch your film. And it's just so oversaturated now in the market too, that it's a smart way to get people to watch
Mm.
your art.
Yeah, 100%. Especially with short films. Just go on Netflix and like
Yeah.
flick through, or HBO Go, or whatever you're watching. We don't have those sponsors yet, so I'm not promoting either one. But you're just flicking through. You're like, oh, what is this about? What is this about? You're really looking at the log lines. Like, what is this film or TV show about?
Yeah.
Like, give me a sentence or two about it. So that's really what people want to know at the end of the day, and making that compelling, I think, is a really interesting place to start with your project. You could either start there and create the project from there and be like, oh, here's an idea. Let's see, let's flesh it out a little bit more. Or you could start with a bigger script and narrow it down, like Tim did, and really figure out what the core of your story is about. So I
Hmm.
find it's a really useful tool, for sure. So, Sink, you said, oh, sorry, did you want to
Yeah.
elaborate on that? I'm the worst host. I like cut people off and I talk a lot. I'm Italian, so I
No.
always like want to jump in.
You know what though? It's great. It means that we're having a great, excited conversation where we're having a lot of agreements and stuff. So no, it's great. I don't have anything to add. I just am really affirming you
Awesome,
because I
awesome, awesome.
totally agree.
What I was going to ask was just for the Film Fund project, you drew from your real life experiences, your relationship. Is that typically where you get your stories from and what inspires you, your real life?
Yeah, I really subscribe to the fact that we should write about what we know. And I do think that it's important to live a little bit before you have something to say and put into the world. And so for me, this happens to be what I would like to say and attack. But also, I suppose it is a little bit self-indulgent too, that we care about the things that affect us personally. And I do love the idea of telling stories that are not based on personal experiences, but I think that that is where it comes from first and foremost. That's what I want to connect to. And especially at the beginning of what will hopefully be a long career, I think that's a good
I
place
totally
to
agree.
start.
And I think like when you say write what you know, a lot of times people think like this is a stupid example, but say you had like a janitor and he was a screenwriter, um, like that would mean like, oh, you can only write about being a janitor. But I think even in like any genre, you can take your life experiences and make it relatable in that genre. It's just really pulling from like what you've experienced. And like for example,
Yeah.
my one of my first short films, Son of Blackbeard, was about Blackbeard, the pirate, this dark figure, somehow exists in the modern world and has a 20-something-year-old son, and
Mhm.
they butt heads in it. And
Mhm.
it's like, I used experiences from my relationship, whether I realized it or not, my relationship with my father in that story, even though it's
Yeah.
like a fictional pirate and like a
Yeah.
character and it's a fantasy world. You can still draw on those like
Right.
real life experiences and make something real
Right.
out of them. Not that I have a terrible relationship with my dad if he's listening, but it's just yeah. I think it's always a lot more.
Don't hate
Yeah, I
us,
love you,
Dad.
Dad.
We love
I
you,
don't think my
Dad.
dad even knows how
Yeah.
to open the podcast app, so I think we're probably good there. But yeah,
It's fine. Yeah. Well, it's true. I mean, even if somebody was making a film about being in outer space and they don't know anything about it, I think we can't help but inject our personal experiences into our art. So even though this piece that I'm working on is pretty directly drawn from that, I think even if I was making something that was really far away from my life, I would still sort of put pieces of myself into it regardless. And that's just sort of being human, I think, too. And that's what makes people want to watch films is they find the humanity and the truth of what you're saying
yeah, I'm so
in the
glad
works
you
that you're
used the word
making.
humanity too. I was gonna say, I was gonna preface it with being like, oh, this sounds kind of highfalutin or lofty, but it's the human condition that we're writing about. Whether you're writing about like aliens or pirates or what, you still have to understand what it is to be
Yes.
human and the conflicts that we encounter in our day to day lives. And I think that's what makes stories really compelling. And that's at least what the film fund looks for. Really conflict laden,
Yeah.
high concept
Yeah.
stories for sure. High concept just meaning you can explain them in a sentence and that they're compelling enough to get across, in a log line. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, I love that you feel that way
Hmm.
too. You mentioned film school a little while ago. What film school did you go to?
I did. Yeah, I went to Emerson College
Okay.
up in Boston. And then I did their LA program too, and ended up my first sort of internship turned job was for Universal Studios. So I was driving a golf cart around fake
Oh
New
no way.
York, dreaming of real New York. And so now I live in Brooklyn. I do love LA, but I was always sort of gunning for the East Coast because I'm from the East Coast.
Gotcha. That's
So
awesome. Yeah, we had an intern
also,
from Emerson a couple summers ago.
oh really? They're the
Yeah,
best. I mean, we're the
he was
best.
one of our best interns. Loved him. I
That's
think
there you
he
go.
moved out to LA now. Is very happy out there.
Okay. Yeah, that's where most Emersonians go. And also, I have to quick ask you, are you from or do you live in Philly?
Yes. I grew up in the suburbs
Okay.
of Philly and now I live in Philly.
Okay, I think I saw that on a previous podcast episode, and I am also from the suburbs of
Oh,
Philly,
no
so I
way.
just had to
Where at?
put that in. Yeah. I'm from a very small town called Bernathen, which is it's near sort of like Huntington
Yeah, I've
Valley,
heard of like Brynathan College
Abington.
is up there, obviously, right?
Yep, okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
cool. Yeah, I grew up more
That's where I'm
like
from.
grew up in Havertown and then we moved closer to like
Okay.
Villanova my freshman year of high school.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So like, yeah, not too
Nice.
far.
That's awesome.
Small world.
PA.
Yep. I realized
We love some PA
only
folks.
people from Pennsylvania say PA. I realized like when I went to college, I would say like
Is that
PA, and
true?
people had no idea what I was talking. I don't know. That's what I realized. Like I don't know. A lot of people would be like,
Yeah, they're
You're
like
what?" I was like, "Pennsylvania." Like we're
a
in.
production assistant? Yeah. What are you talking
Yeah.
about?
But
That's true. I should watch myself on that because people probably have no idea what I'm
as
saying.
a fellow PA, and I understand you. So, what did you think of film
Yeah.
school? I mean, did you like the experience?
Yeah, I did. I think that what really helped me was having an internship and experiential learning. So being in the studio circuit, seeing how development worked, being on set sometimes, that was really what did it for me. And that was thanks to all the resources that my school provided, which I feel really lucky about. And I think it was very worth having that too, because you also create a community. And I think above all else, it comes down to community and the people that you connect with. And even I just worked on a different project that I suppose you could call a short film. It was sort of a dance piece short film, with someone that I went to college with at Emerson. She's a choreographer, and we came together to make this piece, years later, and it just felt like this beautiful full circle moment that we never would have found each other if it hadn't been for going to
Mhm.
college with one
That's
another.
awesome. Yeah, I thought about going to
Yeah.
get my MFA. I didn't do film undergrad, but and the only reason,
Oh, wow.
yeah, the reason I was thinking about going to grad school for film is like I want to be immersed in that community, which is like the community of people, the network you make.
Yeah.
Like other than that, I feel like you can learn a lot of these things yourself, but really like thrusting yourself into community is the
Yeah,
biggest thing that I think is the most worth it from people I've talked to.
definitely. Yeah, and I think any young filmmaker that I have talked to, I always say just get yourself on set as much as possible. And, the school of YouTube also
Mm.
is amazing. I have learned so many things thanks to YouTube and the internet and just any kind of tutorial. And so, not saying that college is obsolete, but I do think that we now have so many alternative approaches and resources that it's not like you must go to school and you must have a master's, in order to make
Yeah,
something of
exactly.
yourself.
And just like taking that school of YouTube and then going out there and just going into the school of like fucking up and not making something super perfect and making your
Yeah.
first horrible short. Like that's so
Yes,
important. Like my first short was so
exactly.
bad. Like, and I at the time I wasted money on festival submissions because I thought it was better, and but then you learn, you're like, wow, like what was I
It
doing? Like why
happens.
did I do that? But I learned so
Yeah.
much. No one will ever see this film besides like my few
Yes.
friends from high school that I put in it. But I learned so much. Like it's just such a
Yeah.
great experience. I watched a ton of YouTube videos, and then I went out there and I was like, all right, let's do this. And did I do a great job? No, but I learned like the process of what to do, which I think is super important.
Yeah. 100%. And I think, yeah, we call that the school of falling on
Yes.
your face. But it's a great school. It teaches you a lot. I have definitely failed many times, and I'm so grateful for it because also I think that everything we experience or try or anything that we make is just preparing us for what's to come. And so even though my background in film and music felt sort of like, what am I supposed to do with this for a while? Because I had so many different areas that, I didn't really see how all those skills could fit together. And now I have that sort of objective approach of like, oh, this is actually really useful that I had all these weird, what felt like wild
Hmm.
goose chase,
And you said you
career
dance
paths
too,
for
right?
a while. And yes, yeah. So I danced the first several years of growing up and even into college, did some pre-professional teams, and that started to subside as I took over doing, film jobs and working in TV and such. And it definitely shaped me as an actor, just being in touch with my body, being in touch with how to convey a performance in a subtle or not so subtle way when necessary. And yeah, it's all been really useful to me in the end, and I just wouldn't have ever known that when I was younger. So I'm grateful for kind of this weird sideways life. Well, actually, I joke that I've lived many lives because anytime I start telling people the different jobs or experiences I've had, they're like, Wait, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah,
You've done what? But I think, that's also the way that things are going more now too. Like we have many jobs throughout our careers, and especially in this industry, it's just very standard to do so many different things, have all those survival jobs, odd jobs, you name it. So it's all been really helpful for me with providing the grit that I think is necessary to make films and go for what you want, and also the just sort of the like flexibility and the foresight that you need going into all of
absolutely.
that as
So
well.
do you filmmaking full time now?
I am full-time voiceover acting, which is very interesting and fun, and doing music licensing still, and trying to crack my way into
Hmm.
film TV acting. So
Yeah.
hopefully, fingers crossed, that starts happening. But yes, I also just work on sets in varying capacities, however people need me. So sometimes it's like I'm a production coordinator, um, or even a
Hmm.
PA or whatever people need. They'll plug me in, and I just
Hmm.
love
Very cool. What
the
would you
movie
say
biz.
out of all those projects you've done, music,
Yeah.
dance, film, acting, which are you most passionate about? If you can give an answer to one.
I know that's really hard. I think I think for me, it really is that I love storytelling the most, which can show up in all those different ways. But I think I find the most joy when I can make something that's a visual piece, so something that's film, and when I can have a part in creating it and also in performing in it. So I'm a little bit greedy with the amount that I like to be involved, but I think there's so much fun in the creation process. That's one of my favorite things, and then also being a performer. I don't think you ever feel more alive than when
Hmm.
you're performing.
I guess it's so when you're performing, is that usually material that you
Oh,
have written yourself?
yeah, depends on the project. I've started doing some short film work for other people, and with voiceover have worked doing a bunch of commercials, and some others sort of odd jobs. And it's been a really great time, I would say. I'm sort of in the spot where I'm like, okay, more, 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 and working with an acting coach, and a lot of my friends are starting to work their way up on the TV and film chain, and so yeah, I'm excited for
Hmm.
more of
And so you
that to
said
come
this
down the
is
line.
your first short film that you're doing with the Film Fund, right?
Yeah, yeah, and it's actually been a sort of slow and steady wins the race process, because I got some funding through the film fund, which is awesome, and that was really my signal to really jumpstart the process and believe that I could do it. And I've slowly been
Hmm.
accumulating the right team for it. So now we have an amazing director attached to it. We have the co-star that I will be performing with attached to it. We have some amazing producers, executive producer, and we just put on a line producer too. And the great thing about it is, and what's also deeply personal to me, is that the whole crew from pre production
Oh,
through
awesome.
post is going to be all female identifying. So, with the exception of
Okay.
the co star who will be played by a man, it's going to be all ladies. And I think that is something that, while I wanted to explore this really deeply personal narrative, I also wanted to have a cause that I could, you know, be a part of being on the right side of history for. And also I think most of the women that I know have experienced, the Me Too movement, and myself included. And so I think that I have started to feel just angry and motivated enough that it was like, okay, yeah, let's create an opportunity where we can make this happen with all women. And not to go off on a tangent, but I have to say that sets I've been on with women in charge are amazing. They are just so in tune with knowing what people need, and they can communicate so well, and everything is so buttoned up. And so I'm really excited because I think it's going to feel like a big sleepover for a bunch of ladies. And also I think that this is a standard that we want to keep setting. And so the reason why it's been a slower process is because we want to make sure that we're paying every single person their full rate. And so we want to make sure that we get the funding, and ample funding at that, to make sure that every single female identifying crew member can be paid the right amount. Period. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, I think, I mean, having a great story is awesome for the film itself, but having something actionable behind it too is also
Right.
just really meaningful and just amazing. That's awesome that you're doing that. It's definitely needed for sure
Yeah.
because yeah, I've been on sets where it's just like a bunch of dudes running the
Mm,
show, and
yeah.
like I may be a little guilty of that in my last project, but I had it. It was called the Tom, so every character in the script was named Tom.
Oh my
So I got like
gosh, that's great.
a little bit of a pass. I think,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, getting more women on set is definitely something that's important in the industry, and that's hats off to you for doing
Totally.
that.
And no shade at all meant by it, but I do think that, yeah, we're all trying to push the needle. And so this was a really great opportunity to do that and have it be personal, and feel really fun and exciting, and right,
Mhm.
get something that, people really want to get behind. So I do think that this might be, if we were a tortoise or a hare, I think we will be a tortoise in the process of getting the full funding. But it's important to me to ensure that everybody's going to be paid properly and feel good about what we're doing, and not saying like, oh, you know what, yeah, can you cut us a deal? Gee, thanks, go women.
Right.
That doesn't feel right
Yeah,
to
it's like
me.
go women, and also like pay me,
Yeah.
like you deserve
Right,
to be paid.
exactly, we should
That's
all
awesome.
get paid. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the other part that I'm really stoked about.
Mhm. Great. So what's the name of the project, if you can release that?
It's called Porch Roof,
Porch Roof. Okay.
because it all takes place on the sort of roof of a porch that is actually on my childhood home. So we're
Oh,
going to
no way.
film in my hometown in Pennsylvania, and get some great scaffolding in place
That's awesome.
and some great insurance.
Yeah, always get insurance. Um,
Yes, but yeah, we'll be doing some overnight shoots on that roof, and I think it'll be really magical, because for anyone who doesn't know what Pennsylvania is like in the summertime, which is likely when we will be filming, it's this really gorgeous sort of crickets filled and lightning bugs, or what's the other name that people call them?
I don't know. I call them lightning bugs.
Fireflies.
Oh, fireflies. Yeah. I grew up
Yeah.
calling them lightning bugs though.
So yeah, lightning bugs and crickets, and just, sounds of nature that I think are very unique to Pennsylvania or PA. And so yeah, I'm really excited to kind of pay homage to multiple parts of my past in
Mhm.
that way.
Will it be a 1 day shoot? You said there were overnights, so I guess it would be a couple.
Yes, we're thinking it's going to be two overnights and maybe a half day of one alternate location, but the meat of the film is going to be all up on that roof at night. So yeah, it's going to be long, long
Very
nights
cool.
of hanging out
So
on a roof.
you said it was your childhood home. Do your parents still live there?
Well, that's so funny that you're asking. They actually just sold it to my sister and her
Oh, that's
husband.
cool.
So it's good. It's still in the family.
Yeah.
I won't have to get any permits,
That's always
maybe.
nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and really, I started this process thinking, how can I make something that I could do easily at home? Because I was thinking I would make a really cheap film. And then as it became clear that I actually wanted to do this with an all female crew and really make it into something that I'm proud of and put the time and the work in to get the quality up, um, yeah, then that all became clear that, we would have some corners that we could cut with location, but everything else, the expenses
Sure.
are going
Sure.
up
Sure. Sure.
for.
And in terms of where you're thinking of distributing it, are you submitting it to festivals? Are you doing online release at first?
Yeah, I think so. I think we will submit to festivals. It sort of depends on how it shapes up, I think. I feel really confident that because of the team that we're assembling, it will be festival worthy. And the script is still, going through multiple drafts, and it's near its final form, but we're still tweaking things. And so I would like to submit it to festivals and see how that goes. And then if not, it will be a beautiful portfolio piece that I am not ashamed to say that I put a lot of money into,
Yeah,
you
totally.
know?
Um,
Like I hope it's not something that I want to hide away. I have made those
mhm.
projects, like the one that you were describing, your first short, where it's like, oh, you know what, guys, don't
Yeah.
look at it. Don't please don't. But I had that with a lot of music projects when I was first starting out in music, where it's like, oh, yikes. Um, but I'm hoping that this will not be a cringe-worthy
Mhm.
piece, even if it doesn't make it into film
Yeah, and I don't think film
festivals.
festivals are the be all end all of success. I mean, especially with like online distribution
No,
today and shorts, you have all these curation platforms. You have our website, which has a community where we're all excited to watch them.
right.
So, um, like if you don't get into festivals, it's
Yeah,
not the worst thing in the world. But also, like I think you probably will get into festivals because you've been working on this for so long, and so it's a great story, and
yeah,
you have a great crew behind you. You still there?
yeah. Well, yeah, thank you for saying yes. Sorry, you
Sorry,
cut
cut
out
out
for
for
a
a minute.
second.
Yeah.
I was catching up with what you were saying. Well, thank you for saying that. I do feel excited about the caliber of work that we will be making with this and all the people involved in it. It just has such good energy around it, which is what feels the best, that's the magic, I think, and the special sauce that goes into films, however the final product ends up. So that feels paramount to me compared to everything else. But yeah, I do feel really confident in it. And I'm so grateful for shameless plug to you guys, for, platforms like the Film Fund, because I think that there are lots of people who want to see short films, and it's not just going to be the lily pad to get you into making a feature or noticed or what have you. I think it really does come back to the importance of storytelling, and that's something that I want to be a part of and help prop up for other people. And so yeah, I'm just so grateful that you guys are supporting that, because that is amazing, and no one wants
Thank
to
you.
do
Yeah, I
that,
mean, people always
you
say,
know?
short films never make money. Like, okay, well, they're still really, really
Yeah,
important, and people do watch them.
I really think so. Yeah, I think they are. And also, I mean, I know that our attention spans are more at goldfish level at this point, but it's like, wouldn't you rather watch something short, or like an episode of
Mhm.
something on Netflix than have to sit through a
There's
whole
a whole,
feature
there's a,
film? Like, come on,
I don't know
just
if
watch the
they're,
short.
how new they are, but there's this short film platform. That's their whole marketing campaign. That's their whole like idea is like watch something shorter. I'm blanking on the name right now. I keep getting
Yeah.
Instagram, or maybe I follow them on Instagram, but we'll add it in the show notes for it. But
Mm.
yeah, I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
people are
that'd be great.
like they're coming on to the idea of short films more and more. I think, and they're so important too for filmmakers to experiment and find their voices and make those really
Yeah.
terrible short films, and then make some good short films after learning those lessons. So you didn't when you said this is your first short film, did you
Yeah.
not do any like through Emerson's program?
So I was a screenwriting major and a transfer student at that, actually. So I wasn't involved in as many of those projects. I did make really small short film projects for class, but I actually was acting in stuff more than I was writing or producing it. So actually, a dear friend of mine who is now a big shot editor out in Hollywood, he directed a short film in college that we ended up winning a bunch of awards for in sort of the regional Boston area. And I got to win
Oh,
for
that's
Best
awesome.
Actor. And so that felt really special. Yeah. So that felt like, okay, I guess I'm not like terrible. Um, so yeah, that was more what I was doing. And I was still dancing a lot. So I think really what I'm gathering from answering this question about myself is that I truly am someone who likes too many things and I say
Hmm.
yes to a lot of things. And so then I end up sort of having my hands in multiple pots, which now I think is a good thing. But at the time, it felt a little intense. And I can definitely spread myself
I'm
very
definitely
thin
guilty of that
on
as well.
occasion.
I feel like it just has something to do with
Yeah.
creative people. It's
Like,
like, oh, I want to do this and I want to do that, and I'm interested in this, and then all of a sudden you have six different projects you're working on,
oh,
and
yeah.
you need to pare it back.
Yeah. Well, and now it's like I have so much knowledge in film production and the music side of everything because of all the licensing stuff, which has been actually more recent that I'm seeing some of my music show up in trailers and shows and everything, and that's really great. But then, right, also having sort of the rounded out experience of knowing how to show up as a performer and it's I think for me it becomes a slightly negative experience when I just feel the pressure to be
Hmm.
responsible in all areas when in reality it's like sync you really don't need to you can just put some stuff down so that you're not holding millions of different I don't know proverbial like
Hmm.
sheets of paper
Yeah,
projects.
100%. So with that and learning about yourself, do you have any advice you could give to our community of filmmakers?
Oh man. Yeah. I mean, I think there's so much that could be said, but I think the main things for me that have helped are to always keep going because it's a marathon, not a race, and you never know what the really bad project that no one, it's never going to see the light of day. You never know where that could take you or what you'll learn from that and take into a new project that's better. And also, I think just saying yes to things and not necessarily everything, but for me it has been really helpful to continue to say yes to new experiences even when I'm scared to do them and even when I go in with the worst imposter syndrome of all time, which I get all the time still, and
Hmm.
I just say yes anyway, and it's always been a great learning experience at the very least, if not something that I deeply appreciate saying yes to in the end.
Hmm. Have you seen the movie Yes Man with Jim
I
Carrey?
I haven't. I mean, I've seen the trailer, but I should
Hmm.
probably watch it. But
Yeah, I haven't watched it in years, but
maybe it'll teach people that they shouldn't say yes to
yes,
everything.
that's basically the lesson learned at the end of that movie.
Yeah, I think
Well,
you
that's
get to a
great.
certain point where it's like you do start to say no. And I
Hmm.
am at that point where I do say no to things now, but I think the kernel of truth in saying yes is if it scares you in a sort of excitable, you could level up way, then say yes to it.
Hmm. I think that's great advice. Sink, thanks so much. What's next for you? I know you said you're likely going to be entering production in the summer.
Yeah. Yes. So what's next for me is getting the rest of the funding for this short film, getting it made, getting it submitted, and hopefully starting to see myself on the silver screen in some TV shows and films.
That'd be awesome. Looking forward to that as
I
well.
know. Yeah.
And
Same.
you gave us a nice little plug earlier. Thank you for that. Now is the time
Oh,
for you
of
to
course.
plug yourself. What are your social media channels, your website, anything you want to promote?
Yeah, for sure. If you look up Think Sink, spelled Sink, like the kitchen sink, you will find me on Instagram. That's where I hang out the most, but I'm on Twitter and all the things. And you can look out in the near future for Poor Truth. It will probably be Poor Truth film or Poor Truth short film coming at you. But if you follow me at Think Sink, I will definitely, you know, abuse my right to promote that.
Yes, plug, plug, plug. Awesome. Thanks,
Plug,
Sync.
plug, plug. Yeah.
Check them out. Thanks, everyone, for listening to the podcast. I want to remind you that although our contests are currently closed and we're writing feedback for the entrants who are patiently awaiting, thank you so much for your patience. We will be opening again for entries within a few weeks as soon as that feedback writing is done. So check out thefilmfund.co for the most up-to-date information to submit your entry, and check out our social channels at the Film Fund on Instagram, Film Fund Co. on Facebook, Simply Film Fund on Twitter. Some of our awesome prizes we've had for this past contest were Maestro Filmworks as well as Expressway Cinema Rentals, who both sponsored prizes such as a 2-day rental of, oh my God, what was it? I always forget the prizes. Blackmagic Ursa Mini G2, I believe is the name of the camera, and an RE Prime
Ooh.
lens set. Weekend rental. And then Maestro Filmworks sponsored a what did we end up doing with them? See, it is at the end of a very long day. I'm very tired. Color grading session from Maestro. Thank you so much, Maestro Filmworks. And yeah, check out the website for the most up-to-date information. We also have a new page on the website called the Film Fund Learn. It used to be called the Film Fund Blog, but now it's repurposed to educational content, and it's sorted a lot better. You can go on there and click on screenwriting or producing or editing, post-production, and just view it by category and what you want to learn. And our new blog is blog.thefilmfund.co, where updates like our podcast will live, and winners and new projects and industry news. So go to those two sites, check us out. Most up-to-date information is going to be in the email newsletter as well. Check that out. We also have an ebook, The Ultimate Guide to Pre-Production, on our website. Be sure to check that out. I have in my notes here from an old version to plug the merch on the website. We've kind of put a back burner on the merch, but if you go to thefilmfund.co/merchandise, you can get some cool stuff there. Okay, long plug list over. Thanks everyone so much for listening. We're going to be releasing these episodes every Friday going forward. Sync, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
I just want to say thanks for listening, and I hope everybody stays safe and healthy as the winter comes.
Yes. No, we don't want this Omicron, which sounds like a transformer
Mm-mm.
to me, take over things.
I know, yeah, but in the worst
Yes,
way,
not
yeah.
in a good, not a good Transformers. I guess it's Decepticon. Okay, nerd out. Thanks everyone for listening. Talk to you soon. See you later. Sync. Bye. Thanks for your
Bye.
time.